All right, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. Tonight we've got some interesting stuff we're going to be starting on, but before we get into that, I just wanted to sort of do a quick introduction for anybody who is new to this or checking it out on YouTube for the first time. This is a stream where we are developing a game engine from scratch. Completely from scratch, with the exception of two small libraries that we're using for image loading and font loading. Those are the STB libraries. Other than that, we're writing everything from scratch in C using Vulkan as our backend. And the project's been underway for about 2 years. It's called the Kohi game engine. I will throw this into chat real quick. We have a website that has everything about the engine on it, which is kohiengine.com. So you can browse to that, get links to YouTube and Twitch where you can follow on those platforms. Of course, GitHub, where all of the source code is. This is a completely open source project. It is Apache 2.0 licensed, so if you want, you can use this for your own projects. Of course, once we get it to an actual usable state, and then you can, as long as you give me credit, that's all I ask for, right? We've been in progress now for, like I said, 2 years. We have a wiki on here that I've started as well. And the most important thing on here is actually the roadmap, which gives a list of features that are upcoming, as well as features that we've developed, right? We also have a quick update for you who have been following along. Our API documentation has been fixed, so this is auto-generated, and we now have the engine, testbed lib, and the Vulkan renderer all included in this documentation. So we can actually look at the individual files within this and have a look at all the various functions and whatnot, whether it be the engine, the renderer plugin, etc. Right? So this just gives you kind of a quick breakdown of all those things, right? Okay, the last thing I want to point out is this is designed to be an interactive stream, so if you guys are watching along on Twitch, feel free to jump in the chat, say hello, chat a little bit, ask any questions that you have along the way, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. I do keep an eye on chat, so there's that. And then one final thing I would like to bring up before we jump into it is I would like to thank the supporters of the channel, beginning with our partners, who are the highest tier of subscription on Patreon and YouTube memberships. They are Aarcia, Gerbolis Inc., Patrick Coleman, and Wencheng. I'd also like to thank all the other supporters listed here. They are the subscribers on Twitch, as well as the other levels of membership on Patreon and YouTube. So thank you very much for your support. All of the funds for that get rolled right back into the channel, so I really appreciate that support. In addition, I also appreciate the support of each and every one of you viewers out there. So whether you're catching me here live on Twitch or whether you're catching me over on YouTube, where I archive all this stuff, without you guys, this project wouldn't be possible. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate your support. All right, last time where we left off was we actually were on the wireframe feature branch, which if I don't remember if I actually merged that or not. So let me double check that. I'm actually going to pull up GitHub on here. And so let's see. It looks like I did because it's on the main branch, right? So I went ahead and merged that feature and got rid of the branch. So we're actually going to do a couple small enhancements to that tonight, but we're going to do it actually on the main branch, right? So I'm going to do git checkout main and pull just to be safe. Okay, I already did all that. All right. So what we're going to do tonight is we are going to get the terrains actually showing up in our wireframe view, because we didn't quite hook that up last night. And the reason I didn't hook that up last night is because the stream kind of went a little bit long and it got a little bit late but we were able to get everything actually running. So if I build this real quick and crank up the old debugger, which I'm still using VS Code for that. It's the only thing I use VS Code for is the debugger, right? So if we load up a scene, we can now see that we have an orthographic view. So we can select the car and that turns green, or we can select the building behind it and that turns green as well, right? So we have the ability to select different things and interact with it, and then have a wireframe view. That's nice, right? The bad thing is this camera angle is kind of awkward, right? So I'd like to go ahead and update that to something that makes a little bit more sense. And then of course you'll see here that the terrain is not actually being included in this. So we do need to make a couple of changes to our code in order to allow the terrain to be rendered. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with that. I think we'll probably do the simple changes first, and then the little bit more long-winded change last. So I think the first thing that we're going to do is if we take a look at our terrain shader config, right? If we take a look at this, we can see that we have 6 attributes here, right? So we have position, normal, text chord, color, which would be vertex color, tangent, and then our material weights. Coffee, nice. You drink a coffee. Yes. And it looks like it registered the one with without the exclamation point and did not register the one with the exclamation point this time around. So it looks like it's still broken. So I'm gonna have to fix that on the bot, because that's supposed to pick it up no matter what you do. Coffee Lava caught a stream. Welcome, first time chat. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. I've enjoyed watching your stream, so it's definitely cool to see you here. Welcome. And so what we were talking about here is we actually have six attributes on this one, whereas if we look at our material shader config, right, we only have 5. Obviously, that's because we don't have blended materials and weights and all that stuff, right? And so what we actually need to do is we need to create a new shader config, but we don't need to create new GLSL files, right? So what we can actually do is we can go to, let's go to Wireframe, right? And actually there is something we have to fix in this one as well. The Wireframe shader vertex shader. So the only thing that we're actually using in here is position. We're not actually using the normal text chord, any of this other stuff. So we can actually nuke those, right? They don't need to be in there. We can nuke those. Vulkan though, kind of scary. Yeah, I mean Vulkan can be kind of scary, not gonna lie. But I've gotten kind of used to reading the validation errors, which helps a lot actually if you hook those things up correctly. And I've learned that applying debug names to everything helps a lot too when troubleshooting. So that with RenderDoc, it's really not so bad, honestly, once you get used to kind of reading through those things and understanding what they mean when they give you validation errors. What's worse is when you run into an issue and you don't get validation errors, you know, where you just get like a seg fault on some internal call somewhere and you have no idea why, right? That's the worst part. But I found that doesn't happen too often, so it's not too bad. Okay, so because we changed that, I'm going to do a post build just to recompile our shaders. And then I'm going to open our wireframe shader config. And we're basically going to take a copy of this file. So I'm going to actually just take a copy of all this, and I'm going to create a new file in assets, shaders, and then I'm going to call this, let's see, built-in wireframe shader wireframe terrain. I'm not sure that that's actually what I want to go with. What was the name of our shader config in here? Did we not? Is it not built in? Might not be built in. It's just shader dot. Okay. So let's keep with the same naming scheme, right? Shader dot built in. Oh, that's backwards, isn't it? I really need to get rid of that built in thing, to be honest. But what we're going to go with is shader wireframe terrain dot shader config. Right? And we're just going to paste this in here, and now we're good, right? And the only thing that we have to add is the weights here, right? So, one of my dogs making a really strange sound. Oh, okay. I just hear random noises coming from that end of the house, and I get concerned on occasion. All right, so so here we have this. We're basically using the exact same vertex and fragment shader files, so we don't need to change that. We're still going to have the wireframe, right? The only thing we had to add was just this extra weights, right? And that's going to wind up getting ignored. The only reason this is here is so that when we generate our pipeline, it'll look at this and space those attributes out accordingly, right? So we're not really creating too much of anything new here, other than just a new shader config. All right. So I think probably the next thing that I want to do is let's go ahead and modify the camera a little bit, just so we can see things a little bit better. So I'm going to go to testbed main, and I actually have some positions that I saved off camera because I wanted to make sure that we could actually come to a conclusion on this rather quickly and not have to screw with it too much. So I'm going to go here to where we create our viewport rectangle, and specifically the near clip and the far clip. I'm going to extend the range to these. So I'm going to say -4,000 to +4,000 on that, right? And that'll just make it a little bit, make it capture a little bit more without stuff being clipped. Yes, it is an automaton, and I'm learning to play it. So that's, my wife actually had a really good idea for a points redeem on the channel, which would be for me to play some random stuff on this. So that's going to be a thing at some point. I don't really know anything on it yet well enough to play, but yeah, that's eventually going to be a redeem for the channel. Okay, so we got that, and then we just want to make a small tweak to the position and the rotation, which is going to be, I think that was in, I'm on the wrong viewport. I was like, why is my initialize not coming up? There we go. All right, so camera position set. Here we go. So right now we sort of have this sort of up and back and off to the side of the scene, and we're going to sort of axis align this to look at the scene straight on, right? And so we're going to go with 8.0, right? And then on the y-axis, we're going to just stick that on 0. And then on the z-axis, we're going to go with 10. Nice and simple. And then for this, we're actually not going to use any rotation on the x-axis. We're going to rotate by -90 degrees on the y-axis, and then no axis rotation on the z, right? And that should position it so that we can actually more easily see what the heck we're looking at, right? Okay, so that's all the change we can make for now. Actually, I lied. There is one more change that we should make. So when we do the packet build, what did we call that? Prepare render packet. When we do this, let's see, we have the editor world, wireframe. We're doing this sort of hack that we have in here where we're showing the, we're taking the world geometries generated by the world view packet, and we're just sort of copying those over to the wireframe. We're going to do the exact same thing. Wireframe data dot terrain geometries equals packet views testbed packet view world dot terrain geometries, right? We're just going to kind of do the same thing for that. And that actually concludes all of the changes except for the stuff we're going to have to do in the view. So I'm going to build this real quick. And I'm going to go ahead and run it. Where did my debugger go? Where have you gone, VS Code? This is why I don't like VS Code. It just does random weird crap like this. Like, I should be able to just alt-tab to it, but for some reason it just doesn't want to do the thing. All right, so we'll go ahead and load this up. And see, now we have a much better view of what's going on. So if I maximize this, right, we're running at 4K resolution here, which is why my FPS is tanking. And that's also because I haven't optimized this at all yet. But, you know, we can select these different objects and they show up, right? So we have our wireframe view working as expected, right? So that's a little bit easier to see and visualize what's going on. Holy moly guacamole. Hey Rhodium, how's it going? Welcome. Okay, so with that, we are actually going to jump into the render view wireframe enhancement. So I'm actually going to close the split view because this is where we're going to be doing the rest of the work that we actually have to do. So the first thing that we need to do is we're going to be using two shaders now, which means some of our structure here is going to have to change, right? So we have our wireframe shader because we were thinking it was going to be 1. Now it's going to be 2. It's probably going to be potentially more. And so we need to come up with a structure that makes a little bit more sense than this, right? We don't want to just keep banging more of these in there, you know, sets of these things and whatnot. So one of the changes that we're going to do is we're going to type def a new structure, and we're going to call this wireframe shader info, and wireframe shader info, right? And this is going to hold our shader, which we're just going to change this to S, right? So that's going to hold our shader pointer. It's going to hold our wireframe locations, which we're just going to change those to locations, right? So those are all of our uniform locations for the shader. And then we're also going to take these instances, which are also shader specific, and we're going to move those over as well. That being said, there is another change that we're going to make here. So we were initially thinking maybe trying to combine this all into one shader and just having separate instances for each color that we draw, since that's an instance variable, but instance uniform rather. But I don't think that's going to be the way to go. Really, all that we care about in terms of each of these wireframe shaders is we draw one of two colors. We either draw the selected color or the non-selected color. And then depending on what actual type of geometry we're drawing, we kind of color code it a little bit which we can or not do, right? But we have the flexibility to do that, so we're going to do it. And so instead of having like a geometry instance and a terrain instance, we're just going to have what we're going to call a normal instance and a selected instance, right? And that's going to be for each shader, right? So we're just going to simplify that a little bit. And then what we're going to have in our internal data is we're going to have, instead of having all of that stuff, we're going to have basically our wireframe shader info. And that's going to be, the first one's going to be mesh shader. And wireframe shader info terrain shader, right? And that is the way we're going to roll through all of these updates, and all of that other stuff is basically just going to work off of one of those or the other. So I think the best way to do this to avoid duplicate code all over the place is going to be with loops, because all the operations are going to be exactly the same between all of these shaders, right? So really all we need to do is just have like a pointer to which shader we're talking about for these operations, and then we could just kind of loop through them and just do them all one by one. Holy moly guacamole, you need to try this best VS Code theme I found. I'm assuming because there's 3 stars there, you probably dropped a link, but can you just tell me the name of the theme instead? I don't really use VS Code for anything but a debugger these days. And frankly, as soon as a debugger exists for Vim that works really well, is there, I probably will switch to that. I found that more or less, I had a DAP UI installed, and it worked about 90% of the way that I needed it there, but it was missing some things. So I'll try it again maybe in a few months and see where we wind up. But yeah, I don't really use VS Code all that much anymore. It's a custom theme. Well, I'll tell you what. No good alternatives. There are a couple of things out there that I've run across. What was the name of that other one that I ran into the other day? It was, oh shoot, do I have it saved? I don't know that I do. There was one that I wanted to try. I'm trying to remember what the heck it was called, though. Seer, I think it was. Which is the front end to GDB. Yeah, it's this guy. So I did want to try this one. This one looks kind of interesting to me. It looks a lot like Remedy BG, which is a really good one for Windows. But I'm on Linux here. I'm not using Windows. So, but yeah, I want to give this one a try. But I'm obviously going to try that off camera. I don't think trying it on camera is going to be the way to go, right? So this one looks pretty interesting to me. As sort of a separate standalone application. So I'm probably going to give that one a shot and see how it goes. How do you open multiple files in Vim? Like in VS Code, it supports tabs. Yeah, I mean, I can do a like a split, right, and then open whatever file. So yeah. Do I use Vim, NeoVim for large projects as well? So I actually use this at work too for, when I'm at work, I have to work in JavaScript, TypeScript, / Sass, all that crap. And we have, I'm trying to remember how many files our solution is for our biggest product. I want to say it's a few thousand files. It's like 2,000 to 3,000 files, somewhere around there. And it does just fine. Is GF debugger not good? Not familiar with it. Haven't tried it. GF debugger. I am going to, let's see. Oh, this is a GDB front end. I heard about this one too. Again, haven't tried it yet. This is, yeah, you're talking about this one. This one looks interesting too. Yeah. Because that's the thing, like, I could use GDB, but man, just not a fan, I guess. You saw it once on a stream. Okay. Well, now I have two to look at, so maybe that's what I'll do, like, over the weekend or something, is I'll just kind of play with both of these and see which one I like better. Because I basically was using... I was using the DAP, the same thing that Visual Studio Code uses. And there was basically a Vim front end that I could hook up with it, and it worked reasonably well, but it just, I don't know, it wasn't quick, and sometimes it just didn't show data at all. So, yeah, it wasn't great. Alright. Anyway, so yeah, I'll definitely give that a shot, so thank you for the recommendation there. Now I have two to look at, which is awesome. Maybe I'll even measure them against each other and sort of talk about that at some point. Okay. So, where was I? Alright, so we need to look at the unregistered. So we obviously see that we have a whole bunch of errors, right? So this is an example of something I could loop, right? So we have our logic here. We set up our internal data, that's fine. We have our shader load right here, all the way till we get our shader, and then we get our uniform indexes or locations, set up our instances and all that. So this is actually something that we're going to loop. And the way that we're going to loop that is we're basically going to create a couple of arrays on the stack with some of the information that we need to have for each one of these that varies between them. So, for instance, I'm going to do const character, and then we're going to have shader names. And for now, it's going to be an array of 2. And so for the first one of those, it's going to be this, right? And then the second one, I think I just literally called the same thing, but with terrain tacked onto the end of it, right? So that's going to be how we're going to do it, essentially. So we have that. We have wireframe, shader, info. I'm going to have an array of pointers to those, right? So we're going to call this shader infos, right? It's going to be an array of 2, just like before. And we're going to take the address of data, mesh shader is the first one, and then the address of data terrain shader as the second one. And then finally, we are going to have the colors that are going to vary between them. So we're going to say vec4 normal colors, right? And this is the normal mode colors that we're going to have, right? So we're going to also have an array of 2 of those. My mic seems to be like really, really low. Why is it so low? That's better, I think. Okay. And so we're going to do, for this one, we're going to take the colors that we already have defined here. So the first one's going to be this geometry color. So we're going to take this guy as the first element. And we're going to go down here to our terrain color that we were going to use for that. And we're going to go ahead and grab this guy as our second color. All right. And then now all we have to do is loop through these things and just swap them out by index, and we have all the info that we need. So I can say for U32, I don't know if we have any loops down here, but I'm going to go with S on this one, I think. So we're going to say S equals 0, S is less than 2, plus S, right? And then we're going to open it there and come down here to, yeah, right here after we get our last instance. We're also going to get rid of this terrain instance that doesn't exist anymore. So we're basically going to have these two instances. One is going to be normal, and then the other is going to be the selected instance. Right? So, we don't need this name. We're instead going to use shader names sub s. Okay, that should be fine. We also need the same thing here. Shader names sub s. Oh, adds. For those of you that can still hear me that are new to the stream, I like to stop the stream whenever ads come up just so that you guys don't miss anything. Because nothing is worse on a programming stream than having ads pop up and then you can't hear what is being talked about and then you miss stuff. And that's not cool, right? Granted, yeah, you could go back if you wanted to seek through the VODs, but I'm not a huge fan of that, so I try to stop it. And we've got about 40 seconds left. All right, cool. We're back. All right, so for those of you who are new to the stream, I forgot to mention this up front. I do like to take breaks when ads actually come up, so Twitch will actually tell me when ads are running. Because I feel like nothing is worse than you're trying to watch a programming stream and then ads come up and you can't hear what's being said on the stream, and the explanation of the code goes right by you. And yes, you could find it on VODs, but who wants to do that, right? So I always try to pause the stream whenever I happen to notice that ads are actually running. I miss it sometimes, but I try to catch it, right? So that is why I did that. Okay, so next thing we need to do before I forget it is we need to swap all these colors, right? Because that's nice and easy to do. So I can say normal colors. Oops, do I want? Yes, normal colors, sub S, right? Seems good, awesome. Now we just need to sort of rework this section into our loop, right? I think we've gotten everything up here that we need. All this stuff goes into the first render pass because we only have one render pass for this view. Okay, yeah, so we should be good to go. So instead of data, wireframe shader, what we really need is shader infos sub I. But I don't really want to type shader info sub I this many times. That's kind of ridiculous, right? So I'm going to go here and say wireframe shader info equals shader infos sub S, right? And that will just give us a nice info pointer to that. We can change this to info. And I'm actually just going to repeat this real quick. Here as well. Right, I doubt that's not all of them. So there's this. This one here. That one, and that one, right? And then the next thing we're going to change here is that's just going to be S. So we're actually just going to repeat that in a bunch of places here as well, right? So we just have the shader there, here, and here. Control Q L. Control Q L. What is... I'm still learning all the, Oh. Yeah. Does the dot work with that, though? I guess not, but I suppose I could just... Yeah, okay. Something... Oh, it's a capital I. You know, I hate that about English, how similar those characters look to one another. That's super annoying. So Control Q, I. Ah, that's column select. Okay. And then I'm guessing you can just select as you normally... Yeah. Oh, that's pretty nice. And then what do you do? Replace it with, like... Yeah, okay. Does the dot work on that, though? I don't know if it does. Yeah, I'll try it next time. But thank you for that. I appreciate that. I'm still, like I said, I'm still learning all of the key bindings, right? I've got a lot of them down, but I don't have all of them yet. That's for sure. So actually, you know, we'll do what is it? Control Q. That doesn't look like it's selecting anything now. I don't know. It's fine. This should just be locations, right? So... Oh, maybe I need to do... I think I see what you're saying. Okay, so Control Q to select. And then maybe I could just dot from there. No, I don't think the dot operator works, but I can do that, which is kind of nice. Okay. So this is, instead of geometry instance, this is going to be... I think I called it normal instance. Couldn't think of the word, I called it, right? So that's normal instance. This is going to be normal instance as well. And I think that's all we have to change for that. Selected instance should just work out of the box. And there we go. I think that is everything we need to do here. So those should be set up. I don't think I have anything that I left out there, so we should be good. Control Q to insert mode, type whatever you want. All selected lines get changed to that. Yeah, that makes sense. Forgot to escape after type whatever you want part. Ah. Oh, you have to escape. I see what you mean. Okay. It's one of those motions I just haven't learned yet. I'll have to get in the habit of doing it, though. Okay, wireframe on destroy. So the shader system takes care of destroying the shader for us and all of that. The only thing that I have to do in here is actually handle these individual instances. I think instead of looping this, I'm probably just gonna. I think I'm just going to say mesh shader, normal instance. What did I have there? Shader. Normal instance shader? No, S. What am I doing? This is normal instance. Okay, and then this should just be S. Nope. Terrain shader. S. Okay. Oh, this is internal data. Oh, mesh shader. Normal instance. Right. Okay. Oh, you know what? These should both be mesh shader. and then terrain shader. Right. Okay. Okay. So we've got those destroyed. The packet build is going to be the other thing that we have to do, or one of the other things we have to do. So what we're doing here is we're just resetting the draw indices. Obviously, we don't need the terrain instance anymore. I think I'm going to move this stuff up. And maybe I'll loop this in with the rest of this, right? So we're going to kind of do something similar. We're going to do wireframe shader info. We're going to call this infos, or I guess, yeah, infos. There's going to be 2 of them. Again, we're just going to take the address of internal data. We'll do mesh shader first, and then the address of internal data terrain shader. Because I think we need... Yeah, we need the instances for both. Okay. And then we also need to know... we also need the individual arrays. So we're going to say geometry render data arrays, right? We're going to have 2 of those. And so the first one is going to be world data, world geometries. And then the second one is going to be world data, terrain geometries. And then here we can just basically loop as we did up further up. So U32 S equals 0, S is less than 2 plus plus S, right? And then we can go all the way down here. Oops. And do that. Whoops, why did I type if? 4. There we go. And now we should be able to do, instead of internal data, we can go infos, S, geometry instance, and then doesn't that have it though? Oh, it's normal instance. My bad. Okay. And then it's going to be infos sub S. Right, so, okay. So we reset our draw indices, and then instead of saying geometries, we're going to do arrays sub S. And in fact, how many times are we actually going to... Yeah, we're going to reference that a lot. So I'm actually going to geometry render data. I'm just going to call this array equals arrays sub S. Right, and that way I don't have to do that all over the place. So geometry data count is going to be the darray length of array. Out packets. So we actually need our counts as well. We need pointers to that. These are... One Lives Left. Thank you so much for the follow. And Not Crimes, I think you followed during the ad break. Thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're going to need... I think these are U32s, I want to say. Yes, they are. Okay. So we're going to need U32 pointers. We're going to call this counts. And that's going to be array of 2. And it's going to be the address of, and this time it's going to be out packet geometry count and the address of out packet. I think it's terrain geometry count. And I actually just realized that this is a source array. We're also going to need a target array for this right here. So let's rename this source arrays, right? And then we'll call this source array, and that'll be source array sub s. So if the source array exists, then we go ahead and get the length of that. We are going to set counts sub s equal to that. And then if we have geometry data counts, yeah, if this is a non-zero, then we're going to go through and first thing we need to do is actually set up the out packet array, which I don't... This... Get rid of this and set... oh, I didn't do target arrays, did I? These are also, these happen to be the same structure for now, but I don't think they're going to be in the future, which is the only reason I'm doing this copy at all. Is because I don't think it's always going to be that way. So we want out packets, geometries, and out packet terrains. Terrain geometries. All right. So here we can just say target arrays sub s equals that. All right. So we go ahead and allocate the memory for that, and then for each geometry we basically just copy it over. So here we are basically going to do let's see, target arrays sub s and sub I. Yeah, and we're going to get the address of that, so we have a pointer to it. That makes sense. Okay. And then we just go ahead and we set the render data, or render data pointer here to, it's basically going to wind up being target arrays, sub s, sub I, wait, no, source arrays, sorry. So it's going to be source array dot no, sub I dot unique ID. Does that make sense? I think it does. Okay, so I basically just need to repeat that. So I can actually just grab this source array sub I. Yeah, I can do that. Okay. Source array, source array. Okay, I think this is good to go. I'm not 100% confident on that, but I guess we'll find out when we run it, right? Okay, so that is the construction of the render packet. So that'll then get fired off to our rendering routine once all of those have been gathered. And this is yet another thing we'll need to go ahead and split up. So let's see. I think probably we're going to need some of these things here. So we're going to need our we're basically going to need all of this except the source arrays. All right, so I'm going to yank this. Actually, I'm doing better. I'm going to grab the loop as well. And right before we use the shader, that's where our loop needs to start. So we'll go here. And then this is going to be packet geometry counts. Oh, it's constant because, well, these don't need to be pointers either, though. Right. Because we're not updating those, we're just reading them at this point. We don't need source arrays. We just need these guys. Okay, so we have our mesh shader, then our terrain shader, our geometry count, then our terrain geometry count, and then our packet geometries and our packet terrain geometries. And then we loop through those here. We do all of this stuff all the way through the draw and everything. And we basically throw all of that into a loop. Okay, so in this case, this just needs to be info, which means we need wireframe, shader info equals infos sub s. Da dude Vince, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate that. Thank you and welcome. So yeah, so that should do there. This should be s.id. So we get the shader ID there. This should just be info s. This should be info locations projection. Right, that's gonna be the same thing. Info. So we just so we're basically just setting our global uniforms here. That should be fine. Here we are talking specific geometries. We don't want to say that anymore. We want to say, and instead of target arrays, let's just call this arrays. And we're also going to come up here. And we are going to Yocto, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate that. So let's see. What was I going to do? Oh, we need geometry render data array equals arrays sub s. Yeah, okay. So, that way we can just go array and counts sub s. So that is for each element in the array. So here we're choosing an instance. We're going to say internal data. This is going to now be info. And same for this guy. And instead of geometry instance, it's going to be normal instance. I may need to change that to like something besides normal, because that could be confusing when we talk about geometries and normals, come to think of it. Add a command. Coffee. You drank a coffee. Yes. Interesting. So we do already have actually a coffee command. Is there another command that you would like me to add in there for you instead of that? Because we actually already do have the coffee command. Just go ahead and type into chat what you would like that to be instead, and I can go ahead and set one up. Let's see. So the next thing we're going to need to do is, yeah, we have this geometries check here. So actually, let me do packet geometries, just so they're all highlighted, right? So this is going to be that should be array sub I. Just because I don't want to miss any of those things. This should be info, locations, color. Okay, I think all of this is fine. This should be info. Oops. This should be locations model. This is going to be that is going to be, what did I change that to? Array sub I. And then down here, we're also going to draw array sub I. Okay. I think that actually might be it. So what's going to be really interesting is to see if I actually messed anything up. It built correctly, so we'll see. I made the bot myself? No. I'm using Nightbot. I do want to actually create a bot, because I saw on your channel you were actually making your own in C, which I think would be really cool. So I think, yeah, I think at some point I'm going to make my own bot that can be a little bit smarter than what this one is. But yeah, I just haven't invested the time in it yet. My Twitch channel is fairly new, so I'm still kind of trying to figure some of this stuff out. The web stuff is a challenge, yeah. I've got like a small thing that I integrated into Twitch to like pull my followers list. So whenever I show this screen, like that's fully automated. It pulls from all those sources automatically. And so that should be up to date as long as I remember to run the actual command to update it. But yeah, that's about as far as I've gotten with Twitch and its APIs, right? Okay, so let me go ahead and run this real quick. Where did my... Here it is. Let's see what we get. Okay, no crash yet. That's good. It's encouraging. But our view doesn't work. We're not getting validation errors. Nothing is drawing. So either our packet isn't getting generated correctly or our render loop is bad. Daltopan, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate that. Looks like we're going to be having ads here in a couple seconds, so I'm going to hold off on debugging until we actually get past that ad session. But I will at least pull this up, right? So let's go with Let's go with this. Oh, cool. It's not even hitting that breakpoint. That's awesome. Well, that's an issue. Cool. It's not even like it. Yeah, no wonder it's not drawing anything. So, I'm thinking my packet generation is probably bad. Pika Ramen. Awesome. Welcome. All right. We are pausing for ads. All right, and we are back. So I just like to pause the stream whenever ads come up, just so that you guys don't miss anything. I think I found the problem just kind of scrolling through the code here. So we should actually be taking pointers to these arrays because we're doing an assignment here, and I don't think that's going to last outside the scope of this, right? So I'm thinking that's the issue. So let's go ahead and do this. We'll take the address of both of these guys, and then we're going to take a pointer to these arrays, which obviously is going to mess with this, right? So we have to dereference this guy, and then we don't need the address there. And I think that's going to fix it. Okay, built successfully. There we go. Oops. What did I foobar? Target arrays. Yep, we have both of those. Right, they're valid. Wait, are they? Valid addresses anyway. So, yeah, and I mean, they're right next to each other, which kind of makes sense also. That's definitely not right. So, target arrays. Oh, wait. Let me think about this for a second. So, we're signing this here. So I think we actually need to do... this. And then take the address of that. Actually, I'm not sure if I have to wrap this in parentheses or not. But I'm going to, just to be safe, to make it super clear as to what the heck we're doing. Okay. There we go. Now we're working. Cool. So now we have our terrain geometry actually showing up in our orthographic view. It's not selectable because we didn't add actual selection logic to the terrain. I could easily add that, but I don't think I'm going to bother just because I probably will just implement that when I do the editor. But we can see our selection logic still works for our meshes. So I'm pretty satisfied with where this is, and I think we can call this this feature done for right now, right? So on that note, oops, wait a minute, hold on. We are not destroying some things here, apparently. Okay, so remember those validation errors that I was talking about? Coffee, you might like this. So these are those validation errors that I was talking about. So we have, let's see, descriptor sets, invalid descriptor sets. Descriptor sets must be a valid pointer to an array of descriptor set count. Each element must be a valid handle or null handle. Okay, so it's probably a destroyed descriptor set that this is referencing, I'm guessing. It's given me that a couple of times. Concern Doge, yeah. Yeah, most likely this is because I'm destroying something that I shouldn't be, or I'm trying to destroy something that's already destroyed, perhaps. So what I'm going to do, actually, is I'm going to go to the back end, the Vulkan back end, and we have Shadowless Dev. Thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate it. Oh, what was that called? Debug log? Debug callback. This is the guy I want. So I'm going to set a breakpoint here, and the first time we hit one of these, we'll be able to grab a stack trace. We're already hitting one. What the heck? Okay, were we hitting one before on launch and I just didn't know it? Apparently. Okay, that's cool. What's the message? Rasterization state info. No, I don't care about that. Alright, let's go ahead and just write the whole thing out. Rasterization polygon mode cannot be polygon mode point or polygon mode line if feature fill mode no solid is false. I haven't enabled that, so it probably is false. If the fill mode non-solid feature is enabled, then it must be polygon mode fill. That would point to an issue with our pipeline creation. So, which pipeline is this that we're actually creating? I'll bet it's the new one. Shader initialize. Shader built-in wireframe. It does have the wireframe flag set. I don't remember seeing this error before. So, I wonder if it's, well, you know what, let me look at the, logs. So, we are loading our extensions correctly. Let's see. Vulkan device doesn't support native dynamic topology. Really? Oh, that's fun. So what that tells me is we might have actually hit a driver issue. Because I updated today. And now I'm seeing... So it looks like the Vulkan API version is 1.3.3 on the device. But for some reason we don't have native dynamic topology or native front face, but it is supported by extension. Did they break something in the driver? So if that is falling back to the extension, then that's making me think that we've got some sort of incompatibility here where it's falling back. But even if that's true, polygon mode fill. So I guess I should see if this feature is even available to us, and if it's enabled and I just didn't know it. If it's not enabled, I'm gonna have to actually look this up in the spec, because oh good, it pulled up that massive Vulkan document that's like takes a good minute to load. See if it actually gets to scroll to the part that we're looking for. Because it's supposed to go to this bookmark here, which I think I'm just going to search for this. Wait. Is this for an NVIDIA extension? That's dubious. VK polygon mode. Oh, it's gonna load the whole thing again. Alright. Can you just take me to the, like, broken up version of this? That would be awesome. So, I think what we're running into is polygon mode. It was bleating about, right? Yeah, polygon mode. I think it's bleating because we're using this line instead of fill for our polygon mode, which makes me wonder in the device if that's something we should be querying for. What was that feature? Fill mode non-solid. And that is physical device features. So it should be something that's available in base. It doesn't even look like it requires an extension. Fill mode non-solid. Okay. Let's see. these features. So maybe it's just... Maybe that will do it. Did it. At least it fixed that issue. That's bizarre. Okay. Alright. That's fixed-ish. That's one of those things that, it's like, why does this work? So, yeah, Coffee, you were talking about Vulkan being scary. Yeah, occasionally it is. Stuff like that, for sure. Okay, so I think the issue was when we go to actually shut down, right? We actually were hitting some sort of other message here. So it looks like we're probably not disposing of something correctly, I'm thinking. So we're freeing a descriptor set. Let's see, we're releasing resources, wireframe, oh, surprise, surprise, okay. Oh, what a dingus. I see the issue. Copy pasta error. So that's wireframe. Destroy. We're destroying the same thing twice. Remember I was saying that was one of the things that was possible that we were doing? It's exactly what we're doing. This should be selected instance. And that should be selected instance. Okay. Now I'm pretty confident that it will shut down properly. So let's go ahead and just load this up. Make sure our selection still works. It does, okay. Quit the application, and we're golden. So, that is good enough for me as far as that's concerned, right? So, I'm going to, should I do a new branch for this? Nah, I'm just gonna commit it to main, heck with it. Let's see the status first. So, yeah, I don't have anything in there I don't recognize. Okay. So let's see, we added terrain to wireframe view. Fixed a bug with pipelines. Pipeline creation. Wireframe. I think that's pretty much it. If I can type my password correctly. All right, cool. So the code is all out there for you guys now. It's pushed, so all the recent stuff we just worked through is on the repo as we speak. Swoo14, welcome. Good to see you. Definitely check out kohiengine.com. It'll give you a little bit more info about the project, for sure. All right, so the next thing I kind of wanted to tackle tonight, if we had time, and it looks like we do, is I want to start talking about creating the editor, right? And this is going to be something that, like the renderer, we're going to create it in parts, and we're going to revisit this quite often, right? And so we're just going to kind of scaffold an editor application, which is going to look glaringly similar to the testbed application, right? We're basically going to transform that into being our editor application. which eventually is going to allow us to edit scenes and serialize those to scenes that can be written to disk that are ultimately read back in by another application, which we're also going to create, probably not tonight, but soon. And then probably the thing we're going to start working on after we stand up the editor is going to be what I'm going to call like a standard UI, which is going to be our UI elements that the editor will use, but not necessarily an end game, right? Because game UIs are very different from utility or desktop application UIs. And so we wouldn't necessarily want to loop that all into the same UI system. That doesn't always necessarily make sense because different applications have different requirements for UI, right? So with that said, so if we take a look at our current structure, so we have our engine here, we have our testbed and our testbed lib, and we're going to kind of follow this model, right? So we're going to have an editor, and then we're going to have an editor lib. And they're going to be built basically the same way as these two things are. And we're going to use these sort of as a template to do that. And then I'm just going to kind of keep a mental note of all the steps to set this up. And then eventually I'll probably write up a script to set us up a new project going forward. Or maybe I'll work that into the editor or something. So the first thing we need to do is make directory, and we're going to call this editor. And we're going to do that again, except we're going to call it editor lib. Right? And then we actually need editor source, and we need editor lib source. Oops. Right, so we should have our editor and our editor lib. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to NeoVim, and we want to open let's testbed entry, right? So we're going to actually vertical split this so that we can kind of work single-handedly, back and forth, right? So this, we're basically going to wind up copying almost this exact same thing. Let's see. Yeah, most of this is probably going to be copied verbatim, actually, to the new file. So what I might wind up doing is literally just copying this file and changing some stuff up. So over here, I'm going to open. Let's see. So we want editor. Oops. Editor. Source. And then we're going to call this entry. I guess we'll call this engine entry.c. Just to sort of split them apart, right? And I'm literally just going to duplicate all that stuff, right? Okay. So the thing that we want to bear in mind is anything that is testbed we want to replace, right? So we have a few of those in here, right? And in fact, I'm just going to do a find and replace on that, I think. So if I can remember how to do it, I think it's %s testbed, and then we're going to replace that with editor. Okay. Yep, looks like that worked. Okay. So we have the Kohi engine editor. We're just going to call this editor. I guess we'll leave the starting position, starting resolution the same for now. let's do... We have the term game in here a lot too, which we can't just necessarily find a replace on that. So I'm going to leave that as is actually for right now. Okay, so just to serve as a quick refresher, I'll briefly walk through what this is doing because it's been a while since we've actually touched this code. So what we're doing here is we have some basic imports up here. We've type def some function pointers. This is going to be our creation for our render plugin, our creation function for our render plugin. That is what hooks into our Vulkan plugin and stands everything up behind the scenes, right? So it's a single point of entry, right? We also have a function pointer for the application state size, because that's something that we actually have to provide to the engine as well. And that's basically the reason for that is because all of the allocation is done by the engine to keep all of the memory allocations in one place, so that when we do our hot reloading, we don't lose that memory, right? And then it looks like we have a bunch of errors in here, and I'm thinking that's probably just because we don't actually have one of these compile flags generated yet, because we actually need to generate one of those. So I guess, yeah, we can come back to that. All right. So what this basically does is it loops through and gets a bunch of pointers. Whoops. A bunch of pointers to functions that are required by the interface that the engine uses to interface with our game, right? And so the option to hot reload the library is completely up to the application. We don't have to do that. It's just I have this application set up to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up the application itself, the editor application, to be super lightweight. And we're going to put all the logic into the editor lib library, so that we can hot reload that and test stuff out, right? And so the thing that we'll have to just bear in mind there is that anything that we do in terms of tying into function pointers with the engine have to be reloaded whenever we do that. Ace Grim, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate it. So here we're loading up all those function pointers. We assign them here to our application, right? So we're just going ahead and grabbing those. I think I'm going to find a cleaner way to do this, actually. But I want to think about it. And then after we do that, we invoke the lib onload. So that is what actually takes the library for this and loads it, right? So that is lib onload. Where was that? Oh wait, that's in the application. I'm sorry, right? So we have that. The other thing is we actually have a callback here for our file watcher that is part of our file system. We can impose a watcher on a particular file, and then anytime something happens to that file, an event gets kicked off that kicks this off. And this is basically how that works. So anytime that there is a watched file written, and that file happens to match what we're watching, then we can go ahead and hot reload the library. So what we do is we tell the application that it's about to be unloaded, and that lets it, sort of cache anything that it needs to cache, save whatever it needs to save, stop updates, and allow itself to be unloaded, or get itself in a state to be unloaded. And then we go ahead and we unload the application's library code. We wait just a second, give the file system sort of a second to catch up. And then we go ahead and we load up the new library. So basically what we do here is we get a prefix and an extension based on the dynamic library. And we format two strings, right? The editor library itself, and then the editor library that's loaded. And what we do is we take the source file which is the editor library that we compile. And then we rename that essentially to lib loaded. That lib loaded is what triggers everything to, or is what actually gets loaded rather. So when we compile, we write to this editor lib. When we go to actually load that library, we do this. We have ads. Got about 40 seconds on ads left. All right, we are back. So, basically what we're doing here is we keep attempting to copy the file from this editor lib to editor lib loaded. And if we wind up running into that file being locked, meaning it's still being written to or something like that, we go ahead and we just wait for 100 milliseconds and try again, right? So once that finally goes through or doesn't, we either error about it or go through, right? So we just make sure that it was successful. And then we go ahead and we call load game lib, which tells the game library, okay, you've been reloaded, stand your state back up and get ready to go. And so that is what that does. It's basically a file watcher. And then this create application is basically the entry point into the application, if you will. So here's where we set like the window title, the initial resolution, the initial XY start position. Eventually we can make these things be configurable or cacheable so that we write them to disk whenever we close to remember like the last position open, stuff like that. But for right now, we just have it hard-coded. And then what we do here is we basically are attempting to, when we start up the application, to take this editor lib and load it as, or copy it to editor lib loaded. So the same process that happens up here happens here when we first stand this up. And that makes the process the same however many times we actually hot reload this stuff, right? Okay, so we have a check for success on that, and then obviously we load up our game library. We zero out our engine state and our state. Here is where we actually load the Vulkan renderer plugin. So again, it's up to the application what plugin it wants to use. Now, right now, Vulkan's the only one that we have, but if we had a DirectX plugin, we could use that instead, right? And so we load up that library, which is the Vulkan _ renderer, which is here, right? So that's this guy, right? And then we call plugin create on that, right? So we get the function here, and then we call it, right? And that is what creates our application and kind of kicks everything off. Once we do that, we initialize the application, which does a little bit of extra stuff. So it starts the file watcher, or more specifically, it listens for the event for the file watcher, right? And then this is what actually starts the watcher, right? So basically, this is all that is done in this step, right? And from that point, the application is stood up and running, right? Like this is literally all of the application that, or all of the code that's in the executable, okay? All right, so the next thing we actually need to do is actually hook this up to our build process. So we need to go to build all, and we'll do the shell file first. So we have our testbed and our testbed lib in here. So I'm actually just going to copy these because these are good examples of exactly what we need. Right, and I'm just going to go editor, lib, and editor, right? So for the lib, we're going to use our library makefile. We are going to change the assembly to editor lib. We are going to link with the engine, and I think that's the only thing we actually need to link with at the moment. Our standard UI is eventually going to be another thing that's going to link with, but we don't have that yet. Okay, so that should be it for that one. Editor, the assembly is just going to be editor, right? We also have to link that with the engine, which makes sense because it provides some of our interfaces and whatnot that we need. Okay, and that should be it, I think, for that, right? That's just adding something else to our build process. We need to do build all the batch file. This is for you Windows guys. So again, we're just going to take this, paste it here. So that's the editor lib and the editor. This is going to be editor lib, editor, and I think these just both link with the engine. That should be it. Yep. Okay. So that's done. And then one other thing we're gonna have to do is clean. Actually, I don't think we actually have to modify these, because that just runs it through our build all script. So actually, I think we're fine on that. We do, however, have to change some things in our VS Code files for you VS Code guys out there, as well as our debugging purposes, right? So, build everything calls build all.bat. I don't think we actually have to worry about that. Launch, I believe, is the only thing that we're going to actually have to change. So, basically what we need is duplication of that section right there. And I'm actually going to put this... I'm not going to put it at the top. Let's put it right here. Right, and we're going to say launch editor. And in this case, it's going to be bin editor. And for Windows, of course, since it has to have a extension, we'll make that editor exe. Trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think there is. All right, so let's... Wow, something with my... NVimDApp, I thought I got rid of that plugin. All right, I'm not going to worry about it then. It's still saved, so we should still be good. Let's do a build debug. So we see in here, we are linking our editor lib, which doesn't have anything to do. Performing editor debug build, we have that here. So yeah, we should be good as far as that is concerned. Let me reopen this file and see if it works now. Yeah, see, all of our errors went away because if we look over here in our editor, if we expand this guy, we see now that we have a compile flags text, right? And incidentally, we automatically generate those compile flags text when we do a build. So those also contain like all of the includes, all the defines, all that stuff. So whenever we actually do a build, it refreshes that so that whatever mode we last built in is what our code base is actually looking in, right? So if we want to do a release build, then this will be uploaded with the release flags and all that stuff. So, okay. So our entry is good to go now. Now we need to actually set up our game library, which is going to be a little bit more complicated. I doubt we'll get through all of that tonight, but we can certainly try. So if we take a look at our testbed lib, we don't have a crazy number of files in here, and some of this stuff we're not even going to bother recreating just yet. The main one we're probably going to want to create is going to be testbed types, testbed main, and testbed main C. Those guys we're probably going to want to copy over. And then we're probably eventually going to want to move some of these views, but we don't have to do that right away. Thank you for the stretch redeem. Appreciate that. Oh, I needed that too. It's good to stop and stretch every once in a while. Okay. So I actually think I'm just going to cheat a little bit and go to our editor lib, source, and paste. Right, and I'm going to do this, and paste, and this, and paste. And I'm probably going to strip most of the code out of it that's in there. Maybe leaving like one view or something. But we'll sort of cross that bridge when we come to it. All right, so let's do rename. So we're going to rename this to editor types. We're going to rename this to editor main, and we're going to rename this to editor main. And so this is going to be renamed to editor packet views. And of course it didn't do it here. All right. And then I'm going to try your control Q insert. And I'm going to do editor. Oh, does it not work if you don't? Oh, you know, I probably didn't. I didn't select the number of columns or something. I don't know. I don't know what I did there. Close enough. All right, so let me think. So we're gonna have a view of the world. We're gonna have the editor world, which I'm not. Yeah, that needs to be a separate one because that's for like our gizmo overlay and stuff. The wireframe view. Then a UI. And the pick pass, I'm not 100% sure we're gonna need. So I'm gonna leave it in there, but I might actually remove it. May to remove if not used. Because this is not for like the geometry picking that we have, you know, sort of in the world. That's for pixel perfect picking. And I'm not 100% sure that we are actually going to need that. So I guess time will tell. All right. This is our editor main. I don't think we actually have to change this at all. Right, so these are all of the functions that we're going to be calling here. They match up with these guys. So actually, there's not really anything to do there. I guess the next thing is going to be editor. Oops, did I not? Editor main.c. This is going to be the one that's going to require a lot of changes. So this is going to be editor main. Testbed types. This is also going to have to be editor types. Whoops. And again, we're not going to have a compile flags text file until we build this for the first time. Actually, I don't know if that's true. Oh, we do have it. Okay. Coffee. This isn't coffee, but I'm gonna drink something anyway. By the way, Olex Game Dev, did you ever put into chat what you wanted your chat command to be?
I don't know that one.
Oh, Alexa, you dingus. I really need to turn that off during streaming. Okay. So I think, like I said, we're probably going to wind up killing a lot of this stuff. Starting with this. Game on event, hover ID changed. I'm going to kill that as well. Game on debug event. This is all kind of testbed stuff, I think. This is controlling our scene loading, but I'm actually going to control that through UI at some point. Although we won't have that right away, so maybe I'll just get rid of... Maybe I'll just get rid of this. So we'll just support those two. So I think I'm going to do a find and replace on the word testbed. So what was it? %s. So we'll do testbed. We'll change that to editor. And I guess I'm going to have to run this more than once because for some reason it doesn't get them all in the first pass. Okay. So that handles that. I think we'll keep all of that. Game on key. Yeah, I think we'll keep that. Game on drag. I'm going to keep that for right now. Game on button. I'm going to keep that as well. Although, I might get rid of some of this stuff, but I'll keep it for right now. Game on mouse move. I'm going to keep that. we're probably going to be working a lot of this stuff into like UI and individual functions. But for right now, just to have something to kind of work with, I'm going to keep it. Let's see. So here's our boot up sequence. Debug console. I don't think I'm going to port that over. So where is... in fact, I'm going to get rid of all of those things. Okay. So get rid of that. Frame allocator size, we need that. Fonts, font configuration, I might leave that in here for right now just so we can have text. Although I probably should find a better way to actually load it. 3633738. Thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate it. Interesting name. Is that like a phone number or something? Also welcome. Yeah, I'll leave the font set up for now. Configure render views, read from file. I don't think we're going to read this from file. I think we're going to leave that up to the application to do that. So we're going to keep configure render views. We are going to get rid of this stuff for right now. We can always copy it over later. Initialize. Register events. I think we should probably keep that. Let's see, states, we're going to keep that. We're going to get rid of the debug console. We'll keep the viewports for right now just because we're going to kind of use that setup initially while we're setting things up. We'll keep our test text for now. Some test UI geometry. I think, you know what, I can pull this out of testbed if I need it. I'm gonna get rid of that. Okay, so world camera test 2, we need that. That can go. The application updates. A lot of this is probably going to go eventually. So all of this stuff, we're not going to do anything even remotely similar to that in the editor. Track allocation differences, we'll do that. I guess we'll keep this stuff for now, just for our status text. We don't need the debug console. Here's where we prepare our render packet. Now this is the section that we're probably going to have to redo a lot of as well. This technically means that I'm going to have to copy over the views that we have in the test bed, which I think is fine because the test bed, I mean, that's kind of the point of it, right? Oh, when I renamed those, did I actually... Oh, it didn't do it case sensitive. Okay. Yeah, I thought so. Okay, so we'll fix those. I might as well fix this one too. This is all the scene loading stuff, which I'm gonna need to overhaul as well. But I'll keep it right there. The packet injection stuff. I'm gonna keep all this stuff the same for right now, actually. except for this pick pass. I don't think I'm going to use that stuff. Render, I think I'm going to keep the same as well. That's pretty simple, actually. Resizing, keep that the same. Shutdown, get rid of the debug console. We're eventually going to have a control that does that for us. Okay, I don't know how much of this I'm going to have to remove, so I'm going to keep this for now. Minus this stuff. I don't think I'm going to need that for the editor. I just don't think I'm going to need it. Also, manually adding objects to the scene, like we have a copy of this in the test bed. I'm going to kill that. Right. So it's a little simpler anyway. Oh, P-Light 1. I guess our code base is messed up enough I can't even actually get to that. So I'm going to remove that. Because we don't need those kind of updates in there anymore. Alright. I know we're going to have tons of errors here, but let's go ahead and... game state not found. Editor main C. Game state. Isn't that a... game state. I don't remember that being... Oh, it is here. Yeah, we kind of need this too. So I'll move it up here to the editor. And... oh, we don't have a gizmo. So I'm going to have to copy some of that stuff too. Because the gizmo we definitely want. We implemented that in our test bed. We could probably link our test bed. I don't want to link that with the editor code though. Not sure how I want to approach that, actually. I think all right, well, let me copy over instead of editor. I don't think I can, yeah, I don't think I can do that. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put a new folder in here. What the heck do I put the gizmo under? It's just kind of an editor thing, right? Like, it's a world object, but it's also kind of UI. I guess I could just put it under the root folder. Right, so let's do that. And then we have in here, here we have, whoops, views. And we can copy these things. Wait, why did that put it? Why did it put it into a source folder? That's not what I wanted. So why won't it let me rename this? Source views, editor lib, source views, render view, editor world. C. Okay. Why does it keep putting those under a source folder? Is it this component that's messing up? Whoa, what has happened here? I'm gonna pull this up in the file manager and see what the heck's going on. I have a feeling that this just royally screwed itself. So views, source views, source views. What? How deep did this thing go? That's an interesting bug. Can't say I've ever seen that one before. So these two pasted where they're supposed to go, but that is messed up. Okay, so I think I'll just copy the rest this way since I have this open, I guess. Testbed lib source views. I'm just gonna grab all of them and go to editor lib source views. Okay, I guess that'll work for now. All right. So I think we have most of what we need. This is just editor gizmo for now. Resources simple scene is another one. So a simple scene is probably going to be, that's the other thing I have to think about. So a simple scene is probably going to be something that we use in our end application. I'm not so sure that that is the same thing that our editor should use. I think our editor should be able to serialize to a simple scene, but the editor should probably have its own type of scene to manage stuff. So I'm probably going to... I'll have to think about that before I move that over. But anyway, we are basically at the end of our time for tonight. Because it's 11 o'clock, I have to work tomorrow, and so forth and so on. So I think that's probably where I'm going to wrap up the stream for tonight. I'm not even going to bother pushing this up yet, I don't think, because it doesn't work, right? And we're not 100% sure. We haven't like picked this stuff clean yet. In fact, I know we're not going to use these. Let me get rid of these pick passes because we don't need those guys. So we should just really have these three that we're going to use. Okay. But yeah, we obviously need to refactor those to make them more editor-centric. So I think that is going to be something for the next stream next week. I might do a little bit of this off camera as well. So you know what? Actually, to keep this stuff separate, I will go ahead and do a commit on this. So get checkouts be feature. This really isn't a feature, right? It's going to be editor. That's the branch. Git status. Yep, those are the things. So, okay, so git add, git commit, work in progress, editor, publication, scaffolding. Right, and go ahead and push editor. Don't know what's up with me typing wrong passwords tonight. Okay, so this will be available on GitHub now for you guys to look at if you want, but obviously it's nowhere near ready to go. If we try to build this, right, it's not going to go well. So we're going to pick that up on the next stream, and I'm hoping on the next stream we can actually just get it up and running. Just to kind of get something up on the screen, not really draw too much of anything as of yet, but maybe get our multiple viewports and stuff like that working. And then once we do that, we can actually start building out our editor. Obviously, before we go too far with that, we're going to have to start thinking about some UI controls as well. So, yeah, fun stuff. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. I do want to encourage you, if you haven't already, to go ahead and toss a follow here, just so that you don't miss the next time I stream. And if you haven't already, go ahead and head over to my YouTube channel. So I will put that in here as well. There's a link for you guys there. And yeah, go ahead and check out all the other content on my YouTube channel as well, including all of the past episodes of this. So let me see who am I going to raid? I am going to raid CM Griffing, because he's a cool dude, and he's working on a really interesting feature flag system that's third-party hosted. So it looks like he's still working on that, so I'm going to go ahead and cut over to him and raid his channel. So there we go. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And we will pick this up in the next stream. Cool. So, yep, I'll see you guys later.